This is a commentary on a fairly intense 4 vs 4 game versus experienced players on GPGnet, and the game is Forge Alliance. The purpose of this commentary is to cover some intermediate to advanced strategies and maneuvers. As an experienced RTS player, 1 vs 1 is about skills, 2v2 teamwork, 3v3 and 4v4 partly teamwork, partly luck. No matter how good you are at 1v1, you always have to accept 2 players working together will always be stronger. How do we counter teamwork in 4v4? We need better teamwork and we need to play smart. The strategy on our team is that one person on my team helps me tech while I do my usually rush build to hold off and direct enemy fire towards me. And our goal is to hold at middle for as long as possible, therefore giving my allies time and safety to tech and expand in order to outplay the opponent in late game. Game starts off with 2 frontmen holding force at middle, while the enemy sets up a T1 defense with commander along with a very small blob of T1 tanks. Now the enemy plays the same way as us, which means that one person's holding off producing units while the rest are teching. My allies are teching as well, but the difference here is that I gave Black, my ally, an engineer very early on so that he builds 2 T2 factories and then gives it back so that I can push T2s faster. Why is it faster? Because I save time teching, and teching takes resource. I first need to tech extractors and then tech T2 factories while producing units. It's very big spendings and there is not enough economy to support it. Since allies always tech extractors first, they specialize expansion and tech. So I take comparative advantage to be more efficient. Now by the time he finishes T2 factories, it will be around the same time when my 4 T2 extractors come online, so there is almost no time and resource wasted. In the game, you should always attack to keep your enemies on their toes. If you play passive, they will take advantage to tech and forces you to tech as well. So right now in this time is the time around when I had about 2 Tech 2 factories and only about 1 to 2 T2 units. But I needed to push because it's very dangerous to let his blob get big. Once it gets big, it becomes increasingly difficult to deal with. Also, I need to see what he is building with his commander in the middle. Is he getting a power plant? And if so, he's going to get mass defense at middle, in which case I need to switch unit types to counter his shield. If not, then does he already have T2 units? In any case, information about your opponent plays a very decisive role in any RTS game. When attacking, send the higher tier units to the front, helps to tank damage so that the lower tier units can do damage as well. Now the enemy blob got smaller, so he called for help. Yellow and gray, they took air superiority, and that's dangerous because the next thing they could do is they could either get T3 gunships or they could even do experimentals. Now I'm forced to deal with 3 players, but I have a fairly versatile build to help dealing with both air and ground, and meanwhile I'm trying to take out as many ground turrets as I can so he doesn't stack in the middle. And my ally built a few T2 laser turrets to solidify our ground, and the enemy is already at T2 as well, so I need to either get more T2s to beat him or I need to get some T3s. Ally who helped with teching gave T3 factory, so now I can produce T3 units, but all of this requires large amount of mass, so it is critically important to tech all extractors first so that you can support T3 production. And right now I'm moving units around to help dance off damage. It's especially effective if you're dealing with T2 missiles or artilleries of any kind. And when you're maneuvering with artillery or long-range units in the army, you should always try to leave them in the back of the blob, as they are very vulnerable versus enemy fire. Now I have taken out his defense in middle, and I expect him to go full unit production, since everyone already has T2 missiles, and it would be a waste of resource to make defense right now. Right now I have 10 factories, one of them being T3, 2 of them T2, and I have 7 T1s, all with field assist. the green on the enemy side is going to help defending the middle, and moving units up allows my missiles to get in range and harass their units. Now, darker red is moving around trying to harass, but there's no need to move in as his blob is way smaller. Now my T3 siege just came online and I prepared them for a push, but however realizes now I'm against 4 players. Yellow has a T3 heavy gunship and gray has air while the other 2 has 2 ground. Now I'm trying to push in with the T3 siege tank being the tanker, but yellow has T3 gunship and he focused fire on the tanker, and thus I had to pull back for more reinforcements. Notice behind yellow, my ally built a stealth generator on a hill, and yellow happens to be the one who tech fastest, and he already has experimentals going. Now, why the stealth there? Usually at a tight spot like that one, he wants to snipe the enemy commander with T2 missiles. Since it only takes 2 missiles to kill a T2 commander, maybe 3 to 4 to take out a T3 commander, my ally is gonna have a shot at it along with a scout plane up there in a bit to take out yellow. Now, how do we counter that? Well, there really is no other way except to scout the entire area with air constantly, sort of to try to avoid the kind of sneaky strategy that black is putting up. Game is now near 20 minutes. I have more than 5 T3 siege in the blob and the enemy is still going T2s. Now the question is, why are they still going T2s? Now this is the kind of psychological warfare you want to play. You want to force the enemy to react according to your initiative. Since I have so many units, they are forced to get more units to counter. Once they produce too many units, they don't have the resource to go tech higher. And once they start teching, they're going to use the resource, and that forces them to have lower unit count, and therefore having the risk of being wiped out by mass units. Now, the real trick here is specializing, as I have already discussed. By having no delay of teching factories, it gives you a huge tech advantage, but you need to use it well, and you have to attack whenever possible, so that you can put hard pressure on the enemy, and it forces them to make more lower tier units. By this theory, the game will always be at your advantage, since you decide how the game is going to turn out. So right here the enemy tries to attack, but fails, since he has no radar, and he has no information about what kind of units we have. And he has lost many due to the lack of information. The Allies tech is going to kick in, with blue going cruisers and black going T3 air. Once black gets his Tech 2 missiles up and fires those missiles at yellow's commander, I expect the game to be over and the rest of the enemy should fall like a deck of cards. I'm going to end the commentary a little bit early, since it would be really just a waste of time watching the rest of the enemy get stomped by our forces, because they stand no chance. Once their only hope, the one who's doing experimental, has been taken out. So now they're all going to quit, and so that was a pretty good game. It was very close, and I hope you enjoyed this commentary.